Little fun experiment here where we are having super heavy Grok do an audit and our trained ChatGPT agent do the audit, both in their pro highest level mode, which costs tokens and a little bit more money, and see if me as a human can do a better job. My hope is that you will like what I have to say, but if the agents do a better job because they're trained on the many thousands of audits that we've done, then you know, uh, computers beat you at chess. But let me know what you think. So you gave us these two websites, and you do have some of these social profiles. You've done a lot of the PR. You said that as a licensed architect, you want to drive more of these leads at a $47 level and all the way up to people that want the high-end homes because they might go to contractors or other architects that, general contractors that may be involved in the decision-making process when someone builds a custom home. And you said SEO was one of your key goals, of which Google Business profile for Vermont, you have a GBP, but it looks like it's an SAB, a service area business, because it's in a PO box and not an office, which is fine if you're a solopreneur. I think you said you're doing under $250,000 a year, which usually means it's a solopreneur, maybe with a couple freelancers. And as part of that, the good website with SEO optimization, which tells me I translate that into the website not just being a brochure, but actually carrying the weight of convincing people to make a big decision to hire you instead of just, lots of videos and talking about how your home needs to be feng shui or needs to reflect the owner's personality, how they feel, this kind of thing. You have a book, you have a lot of experience, you have it under several brands. It looks like you have two different businesses, the actual providing of the services for these homeowners, and then this educational book funnel where you train other people on this. And you have some of these items that appear to be credibility. At least you mentioned them. You mentioned the Better Business Bureau coming to Vermont for your Vermont design, Vermont Home Design. But let me show you what I see. So when I start with the Facebook, which seems to be the biggest one because it has 16,000 followers, but no engagement, I see a lot of content that looks like top of funnel PR because you've got podcasts or listicles or just general tips, which are great. Here you're on someone else's podcast. I think you said something along the lines of you don't really have control over when these 50, 100 some podcasts come out. You're also subject to other people's audiences. This is what happens with a podcast. So I guess you could promote it yourself, but it's their YouTube, then, they need to have some traction. So if we look at them, and of course there's Spotify and other places that people can access podcasts, most of these don't appear to be getting much traffic. And over time it can build, and maybe it's someone who's well known, and maybe on YouTube they're not very big, but they're bigger somewhere else. But this appears to me to not be getting the kind of traction that I think would happen if you made a couple adjustments, which I want to tell you in a minute. But first, I'm explaining the logic on why. So we see on Facebook, right, these sort of graphs, quote cards is what a lot of people call these. And it's top of funnel content, but it's not getting engagement. The one review doesn't really matter, by the way, but I think I would have some friends come in and review it anyway, just to kind of bump it up a little bit. The little audiograms don't seem to be working. I don't think any of the content here is working because what you need, and this is my number one recommendation, is real examples in detail, start to finish, of someone's vision of their ideal home, and then you working with them step by step all the way through it so that people watching this, kind of like a documentary, feel like they're following along. And as part of that, they see your expertise in a real situation instead of, creative expression here, or, here you're talking about your podcast tour. That's great. Or some of the principles. I'm not arguing whether the principles are good or not, or, providing the difference between a house and a home is, the way you make it a real home is it has personality components of you instead of just a nice building or an expensive, gigantic space. Like, these are good. I mean, it's not like these are bad tips, but whether it's to get people into the book, the $47 funnel, or to become clients, you've got to start with some kind of hmm, showing the real project experience. I mean, you could look at me, I show like what we did with the Golden State Warriors, being there with Google, with Facebook, in the arena, running the ads, logging in the ad campaigns, the real experience doing stuff. Like I've demonstrated, I'm not here to boast about me, but for example, when we were spending $1 million a day for Rosetta Stone, we did a lot of blogging together with Facebook and Google, and because obviously they like that because we were the #1 user of offers on the platform ever for Facebook, and we were spending a ton of money and driving a ton of. We're the largest e-commerce brand of any direct brand a few years ago. But we talked about that, so it wasn't just me like giving tips on how do you increase conversion or how do you drive more local sales, but it was through a couple examples that people said, "Holy moly, that was ridiculous." I really like the video that you have here on your homepage, where it's an interview of you, and I think you've got multiple clips on that on your YouTube channel as well. I think these are clips that you could, if you just had some longer form videos, that would be perhaps more powerful. Yeah, like here you've got these videos, but it looks like they're just clips of this same video. And I think maybe if you sprinkled in authority from other people, if you interviewed customers, if you showed architectural plans, if you showed why you made certain decisions along the way, I think that put on your website, on Facebook, on YouTube, just a few of them, not lots and lots of content, not a huge podcast tour, not multiple brands, not lots of content, not the repurposing piece. But what I like to say is that it starts with the few really powerful pieces of content first. And it's more important quality over quantity. So it's not even like how many custom homes have you worked on? It's here's the one or two that people really find memorable, right? And I'll show you as we teach in the content factory process, which we use to diagnose like what you have, is we need this item here, the produce. We need a few long form pieces of content, the proof, the projects, the examples, the experiences, in depth, really meaty, and then that can be processed and posted and promoted. I think any focus on these second, third, and fourth stages is not going to help you until you really dial in what you want here and then focus on, do you want to do it for your Vermont business? Because this Vermont conscious home design, or is it the Vermont home design? You got a couple of these. I did a search just for home design here in Shaftesbury, Vermont. Not like there's a ton of competition, but one review, you need more than that. You need people talking about you. You need to send that signal. The key with Google for SEO to your #1 and #2 goals is you need real engagement, real traffic that Google can see. So not more content. I mean, unless the content drives engagement with the right users, it drives to a conversion, which Google can see, like a phone call, maps and directions, they absolutely use those signals, then it's going to be tough. And the website, we see the same thing. Like here, Vermont Home Design, it doesn't have it doesn't rank on any keywords, doesn't drive any search traffic, which is the whole chicken and the egg. And it doesn't have trust, the domain rating of 3. People can argue about this. There's many stats. But there's no signal for Google to pick up on because there's just no traffic here. So the chicken and the egg is that until we get traffic, and we can run ads to it, but then we got to solve that core problem of having those few really key case studies that then people can talk about in the podcast, you can have in the book, you can repurpose in other ways. But for example, we know that links are like votes. Most of these links you have are spam, and they're not relevant to your business and your relevancy as someone who would turn to for really high-end architecture services. And it's like this is what Google sees. So this is the equivalent of having a lot of fake followers. There's a lot of these fake links, which are spam links. You probably didn't pay for them. They just sort of, got added here. So you're missing those signals on the Vermont home design and on the conscious home design. Conscious home design has the same issue here. I think also Zeros, maybe a slightly higher domain rating. Yeah, zeros here, ton of spam backlinks. I'll show you. When I see a low trust level based on the power of the links, it's almost always going to be like this. We don't need to look through all 1,400 of them, but we can see that this is what's going on here, right? So, being interviewed by people that are well known, if they link to you, then that would show up here, and then that would drive rankings and drive signal and drive traffic, which is the most important thing Google's looking for. So, number one recommendation, a few really key case studies. Number two, if you want to choose actually getting more deals from clients, high-end projects, I would focus on that Vermont business, but make it an office. You could even pay for like some $200, real rental that meets Google storefront requirements. And then, yeah, so that, do you want to do that? I would assume that's what you'd want to do. If your goal is to make money as an author and speaker and whatnot, that's a very difficult route. It usually comes once you start with the proof route first. And because if like it's so easy now, anyone can just publish a book, anyone can create videos, anyone can be a talking head influencer. I don't think you need more of this right now. If the goal is income, I think higher ticket clients, interviewing clients, even if they're from years ago, I think it's going to carry a lot more weight than what you're doing here. And when I look at a website and it says as seen on, see, it's seen in USA Today, NBC, CBS, and I tried to find them, I couldn't find them. So I'm not saying you don't have them. I'm not saying you don't have experience. I'm just saying from searching these myself as a human, looking at the socials and whatnot, we want to lead with these higher power stories. It's kind of like the big rocks, the foundation, if you will. I'm not an architect, but trying to, use good analogies here. So that's what I think. I think that that would give you the stronger local signal. That'll help you rank better. The more content you have showing you doing what you're doing is the biggest thing that's missing. So I hope you found this helpful, Taylor. And we had our best trained AIs do this as well. And I'd love to hear, what do you think? Who did a better job, the human or either of the two AIs? And then I'd love to share this broadly. So then you said your goal is SEO. I'd love to link to you from our sites. We have our main Blitz metric site is a domain rating 63. So that actually be more powerful than all the other links you've ever had combined. So if you agree to that, let us know. And we'll happy, that's probably, you couldn't buy a link like that, but if you were to buy it, it would probably be $1,000, $1,500 to get a real journalistic link like that. So let me know.